Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jimron, and today I'm gonna try to help you figure out what in the world is SOMA. I'm a little bit late to the party, maybe about like 4 or 5 years late to the party, but this game was on sale on Steam for $2.99 about a week ago, and I bought it. And then shortly thereafter, I realized that I had it for free on the Epic Game Store because it was free one of those weeks. But I bought it anyway, and I played it on Steam. And wow, I've beaten the game for a couple of days now, and I'm trying to figure out how to formulate into words the experience that I went through playing this game. Let's try to start with the options menu as always. You go to game. There's a few options here: color separation and video distortion effects. Absolutely turn these off. Please turn them off. Color separation is also known as chromatic aberration, and it gave me a headache. I don't understand how that's an option in games, but yeah, turn that off. Play with it for a little bit and see how horrible it looks like. But I do have that off, thankfully. Hints I enabled towards the end of the game, and I will admit that sometimes hints are kind of a necessary evil in these types of games because you may find yourself aimlessly walking around not knowing exactly what to do. I remember there was a part where I got stuck because I couldn't figure out what I needed to do is in terms of running a simulation on someone, so hints would have helped on that one, but that's fine. Controls, you can do some bindings here and there, but you're not really gonna need them in all honesty. Video, so display, as you can see, perfect, beautiful, ultra wide. And I do have to admit that it works really, really well with minimal distortion. So bravo to the developers for giving us ultra-wide people a little bit of help. Borderless window, VSync off, refresh rate, you can up that. Game runs fine. Sometimes there's a little bit of a stuttering and frame drops, but that's because it's loading, and I'll get to that in a second. Anti-aliasing, it's a pretty light game, so I do have it on. And FOV, is it not crazy? You have FOV in this type of game? It's crazy. Post effect, I have them on. Depth of field, you can't really turn off fully, which, you know, points taken away there, but it was kind of unnoticeable unless I looked for it. Rendering, you can do texture quality, texture filters, shadow quality, reflection, and refraction. Everything turned to the maximum here, no problem. Gamma, I did have to turn the gamma on a little bit because the game is just too dark. The lighting in the game is not perfect, so even when you have a flashlight on, it's really difficult to see on a distance. I understand they're trying to go for atmosphere, but it really hinders the visual department of the game. So when you turn on the gamma, you can see a little bit easier, but there's just this white mist everywhere. So even though you can kind of see it, it's really hindered by the whiteness of the gamma being raised. And you're gonna say, well, that's what gamma does, duh. Yeah, it is. I'm just nitpicking here. Volume, subtitles, and closed caption. Off of that. So, SOMA, I'm gonna start a new game. You have two game modes to choose from. You have normal, in which the enemies will kill you. They do an interesting mechanic, which I give them props for coming up with that. You will not die on the first hit, at least for most enemies. What will happen is the enemy will hit you a couple of times, then you're going to be knocked out. The enemy will be far away, a little bit further from where you got knocked out. You have the ability to get up and run away, and you can do this successfully. If the enemy hits you within a small time period after you get picked up again, you will die. And throughout the campaign, there's going to be these little jello alien looking thingies that you can touch that regenerate your health. And you have safe mode. Safe mode, monsters really are still creepy. I don't know if I'm just a softie when it comes to these things, but I did find myself trying to escape monsters at the same time. I got kind of freaked out when the monsters were behind me, chasing me, so they can't kill you though. And you don't need to worry about being stealthy. Now, this is important. A lot of people are saying, a lot of people are divided between safe mode and normal mode. I personally finished the game on safe mode because I read online that the monsters can get quite tedious and more of a chore, especially later in the game. And I do see that being true, having played through the game. And I was actually really happy that I didn't have to worry about the monsters. Granted, I did start the game. I played the first half hour or so on normal mode, and then you cannot change it in the middle of the game. You do have to restart the game from the scratch, which is kind of annoying. I wish the developers give you the option of starting the game from normal to safe and being able to switch it throughout the gameplay, but do some research on your own, see which mode you would like preferably, and start with that one. Safe mode, absolutely perfect if you want to enjoy the story, and holy crap, the story is here. So we're going to start a new game on safe mode. This is really difficult for me to do a what in the world is, because I went into this game completely blind. I knew nothing of the story. I was so ignorant on the game.
Okay, Simon?
I thought it was Black
I
Mesa.
think you're bleeding.
Oh, that's nothing. It's just my brain can't stop bleeding from the accident.
Here, take this.
No, that's for later, for the scan.
It's green.
Ashley, I need to tell you something.
Simon, please don't make this weird.
No, it's not like that. Why now?
Who's David Munchie?
Why is there never enough time?
For what?
Yeah, I'm up.
Hi, Simon Jarrett.
Yeah, that's me.
My name is David Munchie. We spoke earlier.
The brain scan. I remember.
Are you all right?
Yeah, just a bad dream. Are we still on for today?
Yeah, that's why I'm calling. I wanted to remind you to drink the tracer fluid I sent you. It'll help me capture a better image of the damages.
Don't worry, I got it somewhere.
Okay, great. Well, I'll see you in a couple of hours then.
Okay, see you soon.
Here's a small detail that I noticed after restarting the game. Every time you start the game, the tracer fluid that you have to drink is in a different spot hidden around the game in your apartment. So that's pretty cool. But this is a really difficult one for me to do because when I started the game, I went in completely blind.
Tracer fluid.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And drafts, we're gonna send the email. Why not? I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and
Summer's coming.
I'm actually glad I did it that way, because I've seen a couple of reviews on the game after I played it, of course, but they kind of talk about what you do in the game and the plot and everything. But if you're gonna go into this game and try to play it for the story that it tries to tell, I think it's best that you go in completely blind, ignorant, not knowing what the hell you're getting yourself into, and just enjoying the ride. Because the story of the game is just incredible. So I'm gonna try to stay away from the story as much as possible, so that you can enjoy it fully when the time comes.
Right.
This game is developed by Frictional Games. They are the people that brought you the first Amnesia game, and they're actually in development of the second Amnesia game. Well, the third technically, but second for them, called Amnesia Reborn. And they also developed Penumbra, and I'm not familiar at all with those games. Okay, here it is. I found it after a while. I could swear that I didn't see it there in the first times, but I'm gonna drink this thing. The game has the typical... I don't like when games do this. So in order to open up a drawer, for example, you have to click and drag your mouse. I feel like you should be able to just click and the drawer opens immediately. It doesn't work very well in these types of games, but needless to say, we're just gonna get the hell out. What is this game? What is this game about? So we're gonna see the setting of the story here in a second, but you're given some options in the game as far as choices. They don't really mean anything when you do these choices. So right now you're gonna be given the choice of answering the phone call you're gonna receive. I answered it on the first playthrough, and then I declined it on the second one. I'm just gonna ignore it. It doesn't do anything. But what is the setting? So the setting is your name is Simon, and you survive a car accident, but you do have some severe brain trauma. You undergo a brain scan, which is what we're gonna do right now, in a really sketchy, really sketchy place in an office where you're not even with a doctor, you're just with a regular guy, and he tells you that here soon. And then we're just gonna wake up in a mysterious place. What is that mysterious place? Well, that's kind of where we go into the story element of the game.
Hello?
Let's turn on the
Dr.
lights
Munchie?
here. I keep
Where is it?
forgetting what the
Oh, this
password
place
is
would
to
be
get
busy.
in here. But once you open this up, here we go. 2501. 2501. This is the facility. It's not really the best place to be at when you are gonna undergo head trauma scan, but nonetheless, here we are. So there's the guy.
Oh, hi. Didn't hear you come in. Simon.
You can't
Jarrett,
skip these,
right?
by the way.
Dr. Munchie?
Well, it's just Mr. Munchie, but I'm working on it. Actually, you're helping me right now.
Is this part of your thesis work?
Yeah, it's a study I'm doing with my colleague Paul Berg. We hope to design a gentle way to work with brain reconstruction to help people like you. Oh, did you take the tracer fluid?
Yes. Yes, I did.
Great. Well, we can start whenever you're ready.
You can keep talking to him. He's going to give you some useless information, but for the sake of progressing through the video, we're going to sit down and begin. When I was playing through the game, I had zero clue as to what the hell was happening until at least halfway through the game. I'm like, how am I woken up here? What the hell happened? Why is it 2104 in the year?
All right.
It was very confusing, but
You are Simon
through
Jarrett,
progressing
correct?
through the game,
Right.
you're slowly gathering information, and you do also have the option of going through
1988, July
information that you
Right.
find in
16th.
computers,
Paragraph,
and kind of get a little bit of a bigger idea of what's happening through the game,
all files in
and
order.
what's
Will this
happened
hurt?
It's just a scan.
for like the
It
100
will hurt
years
about
that
as much
you've
as getting
been
your picture taken.
skipping
Indians
through.
thought cameras would steal their souls.
That's so. Well, let's hope they're wrong. Ready? Say cheese.
And
What happened?
this is the fuckery that we're gonna be going through right here. This comes off.
Hello?
You seem like a human, but when you get
Mr.
off the
Munchie?
chair,
Did something go wrong?
you don't have a flashlight yet. You have a flashlight later, somehow, but not yet.
This isn't funny.
And here we go. Now, you may notice that everything is a little bit light. It's necessary, because if I lower the gamma, then it's going to be a little bit too difficult to read. But this is where you wake up. A little bit of a far-fetch in comparison to what you were in just a few minutes ago. Well, the year is 2104. It's been nearly 100 years since 2015 when you did the experiment. And you wake up here, and shortly you realize that you're kind of trapped. It took me a minute to find that out, but you got to pick up the fireplace, and if you right click, you throw the item that you're holding. You just got to do it a couple of times, and then you escape. And right now we're underground. We're underground in the ocean, actually, not underground, but we are deep in the ocean. These are data buffers. Once you click them, you get like a voice acted thing of what has happened here in the past. So I'm just gonna click this just to give you an example.
It's working better than expected. They're having a really hard time getting the doors open.
I'll permaseal as many as you can, rather not take any chances.
Roger. Did you cut off the factory floor?
All done? Should keep most of them out. I'm on my way to lock off the comm center.
Just make sure to leave a way out of here.
Trust me, I'll get you the data safe and sound. We just need to make sure we're leaving our power running so we don't have to return.
I hear that. See you back at camp.
And that'll give you an idea
How did I do that?
of the voice acting. Voice acting in this game is very, very good. But what's also better is the atmosphere and the ambience that they've implemented in the game. So all the little musics, the noises that you hear, they are magnificent. They simply just, they immerse you. And that's the theme of the game, immersion. It really makes you feel lost through the adventure that you're having, and you're trying to figure out what the fuck has happened, what is going on here. So this is the first time you get exposed to some of the enemies.
Hey, you. Can you talk? Can you talk like the others? Why are you like this? You want some structure, Joe? Yeah, you do. So weird. Doesn't make any sense.
Nothing makes sense in this game until it starts making sense.
Down now, okay? Yeah, you're creepy as hell, so I'm gonna shut you.
So if you right click, you can exit from it, but it's still the game still progresses, and you can still click it and find out what was happening. So you get a little bit of a sense of the enemies here. Pathos 2 is the complete series of the stations. Epsilon is just the substation that you're in right now. You can hear the enemies, but you can't really interact with them yet. But he just opened this door. You can lean left and right. You kind of need it when you're playing with the real enemies, because they can see you, and if they see you, they're going to come after you. You don't really need it on safe mode, but one of the things that I really appreciate about the game is the story it actually tells. Right now, I said you look like a human in the cutscenes, but you aren't necessarily a human. This kind of freaked me out. This part freaked me out a little bit when I was playing the game. Oh shit! That's one of the enemies. So this happens in normal mode. The enemy will hit you, and then you're going to wake up, and the enemy's going to be a little bit further behind you. Right now, there's no enemy at all. Even on normal mode, there wouldn't be an enemy. But this is where we pick up the Omni tool. The Omni tool is going to help you navigate through sections of the game. Once you get it, you don't really need to do anything else. It has all the codes necessary for you to progress through all the various checkpoints. But more importantly, the Omni tool will be loaded with Catherine. Who's Catherine? Well, we're about to find out. This is your Omni tool. It's getting loaded.
Service console Upsilon 3.
There's your Omni tool.
Pilot seat activated.
Where is it? I don't want to do that. We're going to pick up the card, and we're going to load it into the Omni tool. Notice that card right there.
Tool chip found.
Update.
Tool chip security cipher updated.
We haven't met Catherine yet. I forgot. So we're gonna meet Catherine eventually. But Catherine is Catherine is a lady. I don't want to say much about who Catherine is. Yep, that's when you meet the monster for the first time. Catherine is an important character for the game. She's your friend, but you don't always get along. I'm gonna skip through that because I don't want to do any spoilers for the game. If you want to experience the game fully on yourself, absolutely sit through the data buffers because you're gonna need them. Oh shit. This thing right here. This is what regenerates your health once you've taken damage. You don't have to worry about doing these on normal mode, so once you find them, just avoid them. Don't worry about it.
It doesn't hurt anymore.
Exactly. Kind of getting the idea of the atmosphere here, but the structure of the game goes as follows. You discover a new area, you solve a little bit of a puzzle, you try to avoid the enemies on normal mode, you don't have to worry about them on regular mode, and you absorb some of the information and the story and everything, and then you just proceed to the next area. That is pretty much the game as a structure. You don't fight the enemies, you don't kill the enemies, all you do is simply avoid them and try not to get eaten by them. They do become tedious after a while, even on safe mode. You're like, if this was normal I would have been really fucked up. This is the first interaction you have with them. This a little bit, don't touch the structure, blah blah blah.
Hey, can you hear me?
Nope.
I need it. Why? I was okay. I was happy.
And she's dead. This is what human are. I don't know if that's too much of a spoiler, but this is what the puzzles are like. So you press this once it goes to green. Press that when it goes to green. Press this. And now you're on. And now you're gonna meet Catherine. These are all stations throughout the world. As you can see, they're offline. Portugal is offline. Spain is offline. Delta, Theta, everything is offline. Lambda, I think this is online. Yep. And where's Catherine?
Oh, what's happening? Hello, is there anyone there?
Hey, can you hear me?
I hear you. Upsilon, what's going on?
I have no idea. I just sort of woke up here.
In the room right now?
It was like a seat with a helmet.
Is that right? What's your name?
I'm Simon Jarrett.
And what do you... damn relays. Where are you now?
Someplace dealing with electrical power. I'm not sure if it's a plant or a transformer.
Yeah, you're probably in the thermal plant somewhere. You want to go upstairs to the comm center. It's the room with the dome ceiling.
Hey, look, this place is not... There's something seriously wrong here. Hello?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. We lost another relay. Just listen, head for the comm center upstairs. I'll wait here.
Okay, that was our first interaction with Catherine, your one and only friend in this whole adventure. But if you're going into this game and you're like, what the fuck is happening? I don't know anything about what is happening. You're playing the game the right way. That's the way you should be playing the game. When I started playing this game, right about now, I was like, what in the fuck is happening? And to be truthful, it does take some time for you to start figuring out what is happening in the game. But that's okay. That is part of the process. that's what you should be doing. Pretty soon we're gonna meet our first enemy here, and you're gonna see what I mean by them being a massive pain in the ass. Now you have this ladder and you have this that you can jump over. Either way you go, you're gonna fall down. So we're just gonna try this. And we fell down, and this is the enemy. Now these particular enemies, you can get quite close. They cannot see you very well. They're pretty stupid. Even on normal mode, this is how slow they're walking. They cannot see you at all. But they can hear you. In normal mode, they can't really hear you very quickly. I mean on safe mode. But in normal mode, they're going to be able to hear you very well. So, we're going to go upstairs. This is going to damage you a little bit, but don't worry. Now you lock this. And we are where we're supposed to be. Very early on, you're going to discover that there's more quote-unquote people in this area. This guy right here. He thinks that he's a human, and he thinks that you're a human. Which, it starts to raise some questions as to what in the fuck is happening here. Well, let's just say that nobody's right. So, I think personally have shown you everything I can without ruining the experience that this game has to offer you. When I finished this game, when I beat the story and put 1 and 2 and 3 together and connected the pieces and understood what was happening, I was left staring at the screen for a little bit, and it helped me realize that nothing is the way it seems. Ever. It was an experience. I do not regret doing it on safe mode because in general, I don't like dealing with enemies that I cannot kill. That's why I'm not a massive fan of Resident Evil 2, the remake. I own it, I played it for a little bit, and I realized that this isn't for me because of that dude that cannot die. I know that's what gets a lot of people wet, but not me. I just don't like it. One thing I have to criticize about the game is soon you're going to be into the ocean. You're going to be exploring into the ocean. I'm not going to say much else about that. What I am going to say is I'm not a fan of those sections because they're kind of slow. You can't really see very well, and you're not sure where you're going exactly most of the time. You're not going to get lost because it's still linear. You're not going to be able to explore the ocean. There's rocks that prevent you from crossing and kind of getting lost, but it's still kind of a pain in the ass to navigate and get through the level. You can sprint, but it doesn't really make you go much faster. Just keep that in mind. Some people may like it. I don't think the game looks best in the ocean. I think the game looks best in areas like these. This is where the game looks best for me. So, take that as you want. It's a preference thing. You may like what it looks like, you may not. There's plenty of these to go around that you can kind of read through. If you flip them, you can see crazy shit like that. You'll find out what all of this means, though. Don't worry. Some of these, if you click it, you can read what it says. If it doesn't say anything, there's nothing to read. But for example, here, lockdown process initiated, check terminal for details. You can left click and kind of read it if you can't read the handwriting. But this is pretty much most about the game. You're gonna experience the story for the most part, and it does have a great story to tell. Some people don't like it, some people do, most people do, because the game is an overwhelming positive on Steam. So I think that I covered most about what SOMA is. Great game. I like the FOV slider, I like the ultra-wide support, I like the music, I like the voice acting, I like the sound effects, I like the atmosphere. I don't like the underwater levels, I don't like the gamma I don't like how difficult it is to be able to see in some of the areas. I like the data buffers and how they tell their own story. Once you tap a data buffer, you can do that with human bodies as well as with enemies. You can do it with machines and all this stuff, and you can do it with the things on the wall, as you saw earlier. And do it because they do have a nice story to tell. And in scenes like this, the voice acting is done so well and so structurally prepared that it will tell the story of what happened here. You see this wire, you see this enemy. The voice acting will tell you what happened. And you just have to close your eyes and just imagine that you're there. That's pretty much it. I do want to criticize the gamma, like I said, but I do want to also criticize the fact that the enemies kind of artificially lengthen the time of the game if you're playing on normal mode, because they do. I can see how they can become a chore, and trying to avoid them can be quite difficult because some of them teleport. I hate teleporting enemies in games. I like to predict where they're going, and you can easily predict where these enemies are going if they have a path. You can easily hide from them. They're kind of stupid. They're not going to be chasing you around at all. The fact that you can pick up all these items and throw them, that doesn't really do anything besides distract the enemies, and there's an abundance of these, and you can easily use them to get through the levels. So once you pick it up, you right click and kind of throw it away. Not too far, but just far enough. There's a lot of stuff here. I don't think I have anything else to criticize, but try to go into this game without knowing much about the story. The fact that you know this much about the story is still kind of a spoiler, because I didn't know. I was in the year 2104, and once you discover that, you're like, what the hell? And give the game a chance, because it will be some time until you figure out what is happening exactly. It's going to take you some time to discover it. So this was SOMA, developed by Frictional Games. I believe it's $30 on Steam or your regional equivalent, or $20 on Steam or your regional equivalent, one of the two, or $25. I'll have a link on the description for you to get the game if you want to. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.